Hello all you Bear Grylls loving cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be taking a preview look at The Wild 8, the Kickstarter funded top-down survival game from indie studio Fntastic and Hype Train Digital. The Wild 8 pits you up against the harsh frozen wilderness of Alaska in a quest to find out why the hell your plane crashed and what is going on in a place that no one can hear you scream. The game has just launched into early access and as such is subject to change. The game features a single player and a multiplayer mode where you can team up with friends and play together to overcome the harsh challenges of the Alaskan wilderness. The game places you in the role of one of 8 survivors from a plane crash, and from there you must go full Bear Grylls mode and carve out a way to survive in the freezing temperatures and predator infested woods by resource gathering and crafting. So let's first start with character selection. So you choose one of 8 survivors. Each has their own backstory, each has their own benefits in terms of stats. So for example, Vivian, who I like to play as, has a plus 40% bonus to resource gathering, so you get more resources as you gather with her, and she also has a plus 10 critical hit chance, especially from attacking from an enemy from behind. And there's a multitude of survivors to choose from, each with their own specific benefits and disadvantages. There's one that it takes longer to freeze, so he resists the cold a lot more. And there's a nice selection of characters available. There's a varied selection, they're all diverse. You have a multitude of different stats and bonuses for each, and so you can really choose what you like to play as, what benefits you the most in your chosen playstyle, and go from there. Now the world itself, once you get into it, is procedurally generated, so it's going to be different each time. There are set locations within that world that will be at the same location each time. However, the surrounding wilderness is going to be procedurally generated and vastly different. So where one time it was a flat field, it might be a mountain the next time. The procedurally generated world works nice, and I like the fact that a lot of the main locations in terms of the story content and the narrative are set, so they are going to be the same each time, and it's just a case of the wilderness around you that is going to be ever changing. Now, once you get into the world, your first task is to survive before you even set off on your main quest, which means obviously resource gathering and crafting. The resource gathering and crafting work very simple. It's a very simple streamlined system whereby you collect wood, you collect stone, and you collect various animal parts by killing and trapping animals, and then you use them to build a workshop where you can craft various items. As you upgrade the workshop, you can unlock new recipes and different things to craft, and there's a variety of crafting items available, from tools to weapons to traps to healing items to armors, and the system works very well. It's a streamlined system, it's really easy to use, and ultimately it's quite fun. The resource requirements for a lot of the things aren't particularly high, which is nice, so you can really upgrade that workshop to pretty much level 3 very quickly without too much hassle. Where the interesting part of this comes in is the character progression, because as you go about the world doing various things like killing animals, resource gathering, you'll gain skill points. Then you can return to your tent and put those skill points into skill trees. Now these skill trees will not only give you advantages and buffs in terms of your base stats, so more melee damage or more defense or resist the cold more, but it's also a necessity to unlock later tiers of crafting, because you need to be able to have access to certain resources which is only available through character progression, which is the hunting gathering tree, which is to do with the killing of animals. And so as you upgrade that particular tree, you'll be able to access bones, you'll be able to access leather, and so on and so forth. Now death in the game does not mean game over either. You can just restart, and everything that you built for the most part will be destroyed. There will be a couple of buildings that will remain. You will drop all of your equipment, but it will stay in the world so you can recollect it. However, the most important part of dying and having to start again is the fact that all of your skill points will be reset. So if you get quite far in the game and you've upgraded your character quite well and you've heavily invested in the skill trees and you die, you will have to do that all over again, and you don't get your skill points back. You'll have to craft and resource gather your way to get those skill points once again. Now, in terms of surviving the harsh wilderness Wilderness, it doesn't go overboard with the actual survival mechanics. So you have a hunger meter and you have a temperature meter, and that's basically it. There's no thirst meter and there's no, tiredness meter. You don't have to sleep in the game at all. Sleep is available if you want to stall the hunger and cold bars for a while until something happens, but other than that, you don't actually need to sleep in the game whatsoever. The bars go down fairly quickly in terms of, especially the cold temperature meter, when there's a blizzard on or it's nighttime, the temperature drops in the game as it would in real life, then you're going to lose heat much more quickly. The way to regain heat is by setting up campfires, which need wood and stone to start, and then you have to use extra wood to keep the fire burning. And it's important to make sure that when you head out on an adventure or to try and do a quest, or you set out hunting, or if basically any time you leave your base camp, it's important to take enough wood with you that you'll be able to, one, build a fireplace and to be able to keep it running for an extended period of time. Now, as you're out in the wilderness, you are going to come across enemies, particularly things like wolves and hogs and that kind of thing. And wolves will tear you to shreds in a matter of seconds. And it's important to go out fully prepared. And if you are not fully prepared, you have to make sure that you're ready to run away at a moment's notice. And the only way to really stop a wolf from tracking you once you've basically aggroed them is to fight them away with fire. So running to a campfire and quickly starting it, the wolf will run away from the fire. Or if you have a torch on hand, you can swing it at the wolf and they will try and run away. But there's very few reasons why a wolf won't leave you alone. So if you get stuck out in the middle of nowhere and there isn't a camp in sight, that wolf will follow you the entirety of the way. Where the Wild 8 interests me the most is probably in its story and its mystery. The great thing about this game is that it does have a main plot line. It does have things for you to be achieving other than your basic survival elements, and this comes in the form of doing quests and unlocking the idea behind why the plane crashed, exploring these strange places in this Alaskan wilderness that you wouldn't think were there, like research facilities, laboratories, and all these crazy, dark, mysterious things going on, and it adds a sense of mystique to the overall game thus far. Now, I have to say that for me, while the single player was entertaining enough for the most part, it did get a little bit stale. Where this game will probably really be successful is in its co-op multiplayer. Now, the reason for this isn't just for the fact that multiplayer is more fun than single player in terms of open world survival games, in terms of resource gathering and that kind of thing, but for me, there are challenges in this game that you can't really solo, especially challenging fights, that kind of thing. It only really takes, going up against a wolf by yourself with a baseball bat and some wood armor is going to be touch and go at best, and you barely survive those encounters. Combat is going to be so much easier when you have a group of friends with you who are all got different weapons and you can take a group of enemies out. There's some challenges in this game specifically for multiplayer that will be difficult, and I like the fact that regardless of whether you're playing single player or multiplayer, the story and quest system is still in place. So you can experience the story of the game, you can uncover the mystery of what's going on in this game with a group of friends, and that for me makes it all the more fun. Now, there are a couple of issues in the early access version as it currently stands. In particular, combat is pretty clunky, especially with the controls. It can be quite annoying to swing, especially melee combat. It can be really difficult and clunky to swing at an enemy as they move faster than you swing, which is quite an irritating thing. The controls for the most part work well, but I still think that they are a little bit clunky here and there in portions. There's also a problem with the camera for me. I don't think that the top-down camera shows enough of all sides of line of sight to be able to really gauge what is going on in your immediate surroundings, particularly at the bottom half of the screen, and you have to consistently turn the camera around to get a clear view, which is not only disorientating, but it's just unnecessary and annoying. There were certainly a couple of technical hiccups and visual hiccups hiccups in the game, but that is the nature of early access. That being said, the visuals and sound work really well. I really enjoyed the visual aesthetic of the game. I thought it was a really charming art style. I liked the sound effects, what were in there currently. I would like to see a little bit of voice acting put in, not just for the main story, but for just characters having one-liners, because each of these characters are very distinct. They are very unique. They have their own backstories. They have their own personalities, and I would like to see that reinforced with some voice acting, so that, you know, as you're playing the game, as you're resource gathering, as you are going around the world, running away from enemies, that kind of thing, that the characters would talk and narrate or react to something that's going on in the environment. And I think that would go a long way to really helping flesh out these characters and bringing them to life. Overall, however, I have to say that as first impressions go, The Wild 8 gives a very strong one. It's a very good game. It's got a lot of potential. It'll be interesting to see where they take it, what kind of features they add in. I would certainly like to see the building system improved with more variety, because there's not that many things that you can actually build in terms of buildings, especially for the multiplayer. I wouldn't mind, you know, being able to create a large hut where, you know, there's a fireplace embedded in that hut and it's a base of operations, creating your own lodge essentially for the multiplayer. And the multiplayer in this game is where ultimately the longevity and replayability is going to come from. For me, it's a better experience playing with others than it is a single player, especially in this game. Some open world survival games you can solo and have a jolly good time. In this one, you can have a good time, but I think the optimal experience and ultimately the more fun experience in terms of fun factor, I certainly think that is directly embedded with the multiplayer side. And that is my preview of The Wild 8. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are on the video in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, make sure to subscribe and possibly share on social media such as Facebook, Twitter or Reddit. And as always, I will see you next time.